and welcome to this October 14th, 2020 Joint City Council Lake County Board of Commissioners work session. And I now call the City Council meeting to order.
And we will also open our Lane County Board of Commissioners joint meeting with the City of Eugene for today, October 14th, 2020.
I want to thank you all for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables the City Council to meet and take care of business while keeping its members, staff, and the public safe. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. And as always, other avenues of communication with me, city councilors, and commissioners are available, including email and voicemail. Thank you all again for joining us, and thank you to the Board of Commissioners for sharing this work session with us. And with that, I will turn it over to City Manager to introduce who's on deck.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the City Council and to the Lane County Commissioners for being here for another joint elected meeting to talk about the TAC. And I think just to save us the time, we're just going to kick it right over to Sarai and let her do her presentation.
Sounds great. I didn't mean to disappear there, but yes, thank you so much, Mayor Vennis, Chair Buck, and Sarah, so much for the intro. And can everybody see my screen now? Excellent. You will get materials related to this meeting either during the meeting or afterward, including a version of the PowerPoint that's easier to read. So I mean, you can read it here, but there's some animations and stuff that are make it weird to just put in PDF right away. So thank you all so much for being here and for paying attention to this super important issue. I know that you all have it on your minds, even while many, many other concerns continue popping up in the year of constant, what an interesting challenge, 2020. So let's get into this. I like to start off with this quote because it's one that I write on every whiteboard I'm near because it does inspire me to continue working on things that seem impossible sometimes. It's one attributed to Daniel Burnham, architect in Chicago. Make no little plans, they have no magic to stir one's blood. Make big plans, aim high, and hope and work. And that has been true for me throughout my career, and I'm sure this resonates with all of you as well, trying to do really big things for our community, and I find it hopeful. We're going to cover 4 main topics today. We're going to talk first about the homelessness systems transformation update. We'll be going back to the framework that you all initially adopted in 2019 in May, and then we'll talk through some financial updates, which I'm sure will be exciting to at least have, so that will be great. And then a winter update, what we're doing right now, and then talking a little bit about JEO Rhythm for this work and what you all would like to see happen, as well as some suggestions from the team about how we would like to continue working and interacting with you all. Okay, so this is the homeless service system transformation framework that you've all seen before. I've actually taken year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and replaced them with the fiscal years that they associate with. This plan was adopted in May 2019, giving us the first full fiscal year starting July 2019 and ending June 2020. So that's sort of the framework right now. We're in fiscal year 2021. And so we're, a little less than halfway through that year. But I wanted to give you all a sense of kind of where we're at with this, what we said we would do, and what we've been able to accomplish over these 1.5 fiscal years while we're working on TAC. So this is what it has looked like. And then the next one is going to just be a adapted version with some cute thumbs. So we have ourselves here in 2021. And first we wanted to put up more alternative shelter. In the earlier version, it was temporary shelter and Instead, we've really shifted into thinking about it as alternative shelter and considering the role that alternative shelter continues to play in our community. As you might remember from the July meeting that we had, talking a little bit more about let's consider alternative shelters along with more permanent shelter beds as a suggestion. So that hasn't been formally adopted. I'm not really updating based on those numbers at this point, but that is still, I think, on the table to consider. So in fiscal year 1920, we were able to expand services through dusk to dawn, primarily in the alternative shelter row. And then under the Navigation Center and Public Shelter, the task was to design and site. And as you probably remember, we ended up with 2 potential sites in our finalist category, one of them being River Avenue. There were a lot of benefits to the River Avenue site over the Highway 99 site, including some site issues with the Highway 99 site and some complications with wanting to divide that land. And because we also did need an alternative care facility for COVID-19, the purchase of River Avenue was completed quickly and in partnership with the state and Army Corps of Engineers, and was able to purchase that building and then retrofit it for its current use. This has not been adopted yet by the city council officially, yet, but that is something that I think is important for us to note. I put a yellow thumb there because of that kind of a little bit up in the air on that future use, but we can talk about that down the road, and maybe that thumb will turn green later on. 50 units of permanent supportive housing are coming online shortly. The way that we're counting permanent supportive housing is from the time that development began and when the city in particular has funded the capital expense through home funds and other SDC waivers and such. So we are counting the MLK Commons, and in fact, we have 15 additional units at the Marketplace Commons. So in the first year, we actually ended up with 65 units. So that's probably worth 2 green thumbs. And then, of course, the Joint Shelter and Housing Strategist, that's me, came on board during that fiscal year as well in February to initiate the collective impact process. And we have made some headway on that front. So far this year, we are really just by the skin of our teeth maintaining the alternative shelter capacity. That is because, as you also probably remember, we lost many, many beds to COVID-19 very early on. Some of those beds have come back to be available, but we are still about 194 beds short. So of where we were really before COVID. So maintain is counting winter strategies as the way that we're going to be able to maintain that. And it's going to take some pretty solid work for us to be able to say we've maintained this year because of the challenges that we've faced, in particular with COVID-19 and later with the fire. So then next we have the Navigation Center and Public Shelter. This one is also a yellow thumb because at this point that facility is used for COVID purposes, and we don't know when it will become available for other alternative uses and whether that's the place that we officially want to place the Shelter Navigation Center. With permanent supportive housing, we also expect 11th and Charlton to come online with 45 units, or at least to begin construction within this fiscal year a little bit later, but the funding does happen this year. So that is underway. And then we have in the Joint Shelter and Housing Strategist row, secure and deploy resources. And so this is something that continues to be on my plate, and I am working pretty closely with people both at the city and the county to identify ways that we can expand resources as well as external funding sources that we might be able to tap into. I put a question mark in fiscal year 2021. So looking into the future, not sure if tapering is really what we would like to do. I think with the homeless by name list numbers that you saw last time we connected, this might become more of a, can we continue to maintain or even grow some of the alternative shelters so that we can help people stay off the streets or out of the forest if they would like to be in better shelter. And so that I'm just sort of posing as a, let's talk about this some more, because I do believe that there is a role for alternative shelter to continue playing. Then the future for the Navigation Center is operations were slated to begin in fiscal year 21-22, and I do believe that is still possible. It will just take some kind of work and configuration and a lot of hope for a COVID vaccine to come online fairly within a year or so. So, I also put yellow thumbs throughout for permanent supportive housing. I believe that's something that we will need to have some conversation about and do some piloting about, which I'll get to a little bit later, is talking about how we're going to build this many units. We have some really great housing developer partners. And one thing that I do think is going to be a strong positive is the opportunity to conduct some permanent supportive housing pilots and seeing what other kinds of models we might be able to deploy that would work for our community. So we'll keep talking about that as we go. And just to confirm, yeah, we are here in year 2 of the 5-year implementation framework, looking at our, kind of where we're at now, where we're going for the rest of this fiscal year, and then moving into 21-22, where we'll see a lot more capital development and hopefully the startup of that navigation center. And just a little bit of kind of background / looking forward a little. In July 2019, we had the City Council and Board of County Commissioners adopt this framework. I joined the team in February 2020. We had COVID-19 join the team in March of 2020 and lost a net loss of 194 beds. That is down from 248. So we have fortunately regained quite a few of those shelter beds. The county purchased River Avenue in June. In July, we presented the homeless by name list with updated shelter projections to this joint body. And then in September, we saw the Holiday Farm, which did increase the number of people who are either unsheltered or very kind of, what's the word for tippy? Brain, come on, you can do this. Well, anyway.
Precarious.
Yes, that's the one. Thank you, Councilor Syrett. Yes, you got it. At risk, precarious, teeter-tottering, people who are really living on the edge, from the rural community upriver, who a lot of whom have alternative living arrangements, such as, a fifth wheel on somebody else's land or some kind of casual leases and things like that. So this is certainly something that I think needs to be in our radar and something that we're paying attention to. And really what I would like to see happen is working with the Holiday Farm Housing Task Force, trying to make sure we find places for people where they want to live, which is upriver of the Mackenzie. So that's important to note. And then we also have September 2020, the City Council of Eugene approved 5 new rest stops, which was a huge leap forward in adding beds. In the near term, we have 75 beds, and then longer term, once we can amp those up to 20 units per site, that will open up 100 beds. And so I really like to really just appreciate and celebrate that decision by City Council. I think that was a really bold move and something that we really needed. So thank you so much for doing that. In November, we plan to send out our coordinated outreach teams to start just this week. Our very brand new program service coordinator for outreach started in his position with HSD at the county. So we're really excited to have another person on board. Another person is joining the team next week on Monday to help with some shelter coordination. So that is going to be really helpful as well, especially as we're moving into November 2020, where we are deploying our inclement weather strategies. We, at this point, are looking for opening up about 100 beds or so in November. And then we will have an overarching goal of 500 to 1,000 for this season. What we're really looking to do is try to reduce the reliance on congregate warming centers by allowing people to have non-congregate shelter in a lot of different ways. And I'll talk a little bit more specifically about that later. And then in January, LEASUP begins on MLK Commons, and the work will continue on Planning 11th and Charnelton. And so we have those things both underway, and that will be great. So 51 people will get a new permanent supportive house. So that will be great. January, we also, because of the lease up at MLK Commons, we will also see the Schenkel building become vacant, which could potentially allow for additional beds. And we're still looking at that possibility. In February, we proposed to you, surprise, that we have a conversation more in depth about the River Avenue facility future use and whether that does fit the need for a navigation center. We probably will have some better idea, I hope, of what the timing might look like on that. And that I think would be a really productive discussion to have with this joint body. In March, we will be demobilizing some of the winter strategies. There are two primary ones that will probably have to end. Motels and summer camps are likely not going to be available, after March, especially the camps. They have things to continue doing. And as far as the motels go, we don't have an infinite depth of budget to cover hotel stays for very much longer than the winter. And those hotels are for people who are at high risk of complications from COVID-19. So for people who are medically fragile in particular. In the summer, we'll continue working on the continuum of care systems with our community partners. We're doing that already right now, but we want to really amplify that and make sure that it is super effective. So that will be forthcoming. And then back to that in 2021, we're looking at more of those specific recommendations: coordinated entry, centralized waitlist. Rapid resolution is actually going to happen sooner. And then partner inclusion in building systems and programs. And how can we do that more effectively, given some of the constraints that we do have around how partners can be included in conversations about RFP development, for instance. So what are the things that we can do to make it possible for the people who will be probably collectively serving the people who are unhoused and unsheltered in our communities? How can we include them in some of this planning? Because they do have that on the ground understanding. And then we need to mesh that with the, the grant restrictions that we have from HUD and OHCS and other groups. And then here's the PSH test drive that I mentioned. This is included in the TAC recommendations as a kind of sub recommendation under the permanent supportive housing category, where we might be able to test drive some creative ways to establish alternative PSH. This could include things like co-housing or cooperative housing, or even single room occupancy facilities, some things like that that might be appropriate for the people who really need that right now, and also may ultimately become more affordable to run long-term. One of the challenges with PSH is that it does have a pretty high ticket value for running the facility over time. The capital is one thing, which does require a lot to do, but then ongoing, the cost to manage those facilities and provide services to people does creep up and is challenging to maintain over time. So we want to find ways that we can do this as cost effectively as well as effectively for the people in the program. So finding that right match of service and investment, and finding ways to suit people who have various needs. Some people aren't ready to move into their own one-bedroom apartment or studio apartment and live by themselves. Some people really do require being connected with their community, and so some other opportunities might be appropriate. All right, so now let's talk about the money. We'll talk about what we need, what we have, and then what the gap is. So ultimately, what do we project at this moment? What is needed to complete this work over 5 years versus what we've been able to allocate or have in hand, and then finally, what is the remainder? I will caveat all of these numbers with the notion that we are making pretty broad projections over 5 years. So these are likely to change in some ways, but I think we do have a pretty solid baseline. I'd like to thank Brooke Freed with the City of Eugene for helping me with the City of Eugene numbers, and Lynn Oliver in Human Services Division at the county for helping me with the county numbers. So I think they come from solid places, and we can rely on them as well as we possibly can at this time. So this is the estimated investment for outreach. Right now we have it about 55% funded for the next 5 years. And all of these are 5-year numbers. We have about 12% of our landlord engagement funded, and then 100% of rapid resolution. Yay, that has been added to the Human Services Division budget. And there is an RFP forthcoming for that. Outreach numbers deeper down, we have a total expense estimated at 1.8 million. And then currently we have about 1 million allocated or in hand, depending on kind of what we're looking at. And then the gap for that is about $835,000 at this moment. Landlord engagement, we have a total need of about 950,000 based on the TAC recommendations. Right now we have about 110,000, including the City of Eugene's set aside for landlord engagement pilot, and some funds that the county has in hand for a loss mitigation fund. for landlords. So we do have a gap of 710,000 on that front. And then rapid resolution, yay, 1.2 million over 5 years or 4 years, in fact, is what we're looking at for that. So that will be contracted to a community partner, and they will conduct the rapid resolution activities. And then we have some more. Rapid rehousing, at this point, we do not have funds for allocated, and that will be something that we want to bring to the top of the our wish list, probably in the near future. I think it will go very well with the rapid resolution conversation, and it also does help to divert people from the system or move them out of the system. We also have about 37% funded for coordinated entry. Most of that is staffing that's requested or recommended by the TAC report. Permanent supportive housing, these are the mushiest numbers. I'll be really honest. I think that we have a lot of conversation to have about what PSH looks like, what the county and the city's role in that might be. At this point, we sort of have it roughly divided that the city usually provides capital through home funds, SDC waivers, and sometimes other funds that are available for that purpose, while the county covers the services. So I think that's about right. But the numbers, again, are a little bit not completely perfectly fleshed out. So I think we have a lot of work to do on that one. Training, we so far haven't funded that. It's a pretty low dollar amount. And it is something that's sort of toward, once we have the systems retrofitted and kind of updated is when we'll need that money. And so we really don't have it on our, next even 2 years strategy at this point, though it could come to the surface if it's wanted by partners. And then we did add program management because it is a real cost that's realized as we implement this work, which we do have 100% funded, although this graph is now wrong now that I look at it. So oops, I'll go back and fix it for your materials when you get them. The dollar amount for training is about 280,000. As I said, we haven't allocated anything to that yet. Rapid rehousing is about 1.2 million, not funded at all yet. Coordinated entry is going to be about 1.3 million, and we have a gap now of about 875,000. And those are generally, as I mentioned, for staff positions. We also have permanent supportive housing at our best guess at this point, what the city and county might both contribute to that, around 9.5 million. We have a gap now of about 5.95 million. Again, take this particular number with a lot of grains of salt if you want to, because it isn't perfect. And then we have program management, which is a total of $1.6 million, which is funded in budgets based on who is already working on this work. And then we have the big question, navigation center. For these numbers, we included a little bit of the alternative shelter kind of money that we've been putting in because it was a part of that initial framework. So we have some funds, in particular, winter strategies we have in there that totals about $4.1 million. And then we have a couple other things, but primarily this represents what has already been spent and also what it will take to run it over time, which I think we mentioned before would be about $2.1 million a year to run that navigation center. So right now we have about a 16.3 million need and a gap of about 3.1 million, which all look like really big numbers, but I'd say that 82% is a pretty good amount that we've been able to put toward this need so far. Okay, so now we're talking about winter. So the winter strategies, some of you have seen, I think I talked a little bit about it at our last joint meeting. We had 4 strategies proposed. One was alternative shelters, or what we called safe sleeping villages, which is the city's microsites and rest stops. In other communities, it will be called whatever other communities call it, but that is one of our strategies. Another is hotels and motels for people at high risk of contracting COVID or having complications from COVID, and that we have some RFPs out for right now. And then the third was safer congregate shelter. Safer congregate shelter is a bit of a challenge because it's hard to make almost anything safe, but right now we're really focusing that particular strategy on the warming centers and trying to work really closely with Tim Black and other partners who are associated with the Egan warming centers to see what we can do this year to make it more as safe as possible for people who need to use those warming centers. And as I said earlier, looking for those 500 to 1,000 non-congregate beds is truly to reduce that reliance on warming centers. If we can get long-term gains in that as well, that would be awesome, both by way of beds and also by way of a navigation system that will sort of pre-test some of the elements of the navigation center that we plan to implement. So we are continuing to work on that. At this point, we have several RFPs either open or opening soon. I believe actually the hotel motel facilities one has closed and I haven't heard the results of that yet. We do have one out for hotel and motel services, services and navigation for alternative shelters. So scattered sites most likely will be geographically defined. So some people will be working in Eugene. We'll have some work to do in Cottage Grove. We'll have, other parts of the community will come forward as we continue on. So continuing to try to reach out to other communities and make sure that they're represented as well in these strategies. We have 50 beds for medically fragile people on RFP right now to see if we can find locations with our service providers if they have beds that are not used at this time, which is largely the case because of COVID-19. Rapid Resolution is out for RFP now, and East County Outreach is as well. So looking at all of the different ways that we can provide coverage for people, Rapid Resolution to divert from the system altogether. How can we help people find a safe place to sleep at night with the resources and assets they might already have? And then the East County Outreach is to cover kind of the Springfield area and east of that for outreach, making relationships with people who currently live unsheltered, and trying to connect them with the services that are right for them and helping them to basically incrementally make their shelter situation better. So ultimately ending in housing, we hope. And the beds that we have likely secured to date so far is about 100 hotel and motel. At least that's what we had RFP'd out. So we'll see where that lands. We have 75 with the City of Eugene rest stops and 50 shelter beds as per that RFP. And then 12 to 14 beds likely in Cottage Grove. We'll have our next conversation about that this afternoon, actually. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that lands. And so altogether, that's about 240 beds, and we have 260 to 760 beds to continue to put online as much as we possibly can before it gets too cold. So that is a tall order, but we have a lot of determined people working on it and a lot of community partners taking really proactive action. One of the challenges we've had this year with Winter Strategies is that some emergency solutions grants were allocated previously by formula, and in the special session in the summer, OHCS asked for flexibility for that, and now we're putting out about $7 million, I think, for Lane County for anyone to apply for. So that can be service providers, they want to find culturally specific organizations and so forth. This also could be something that we coordinate and try to create a pretty solid collective application, which then would allow us to add many more beds. We also did get some funding from that by formula, about $1 million. So that was ESG CV2 money, and had 1 million from the first ESG CV money too. So that's kind of where we're at, continuing to look. I have some conversations open with Florence and Springfield, and am looking to make more connections in our rural communities, because I think that it's really important for us to make sure that people throughout the county are cared for, and again, don't have to rely on congregate warming centers as much as we can possibly avoid it. Okay, JEO rhythm. So the first thing on this part of the conversation is really that can we talk about the River Avenue facility in February? That's the first thing we have on our list. And then we wanted to see what your thoughts were on how often we might meet, for what purposes we might want to jointly meet, where decisions need to be made, by the city alone, by the county alone. Like those are some questions we might not be able to answer today, but I do want to open that conversation so that we can make some decisions over time on that. And ultimately just look to this collective body of leaders as a good touch point and a place for us to sometimes get directions, sometimes to provide you with updates. So that's really what this part is about, is to kind of open the conversation with you and to see what your thoughts are about how this should work and what you feel would be the best use of your time. And now we have time for discussion. So I'm going to turn it back to Chair Buck and Mayor Vennis. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I do have a lot of questions, but I am guessing that between the council and the board that a lot of those questions will be answered as we go forward. So I will use the same process as in the past. 2 city councilors, 1 commissioner, 2 city councilors, 1 commissioner. I'll keep the queue for the council and Chair Buck will keep the queue for the commissioners. So first up is Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Buck. Thanks, Sarai, for that great presentation. I always appreciate how much energy you bring to your presentations. It really helps in this Zoom format to have a dynamic presenter. So I had some questions and then I'll respond to your last question about River Avenue. So you noted the Schenkel building might be available for some use. I can't remember the particulars, but who owns that building?
The county owns that building and currently it's being used by Shelter Care.
Okay, thanks.
Where is it?
It's in Glenwood.
Yeah, you can ask a question on your turn, Alan. Sorry. I'm kind of territorial about my 3 minutes. And can you speak to, and maybe it's just how we've gone about raising the money, is there a particular challenge with the landlord engagement funding? And can you remind us what that money would be used for?
Yes, so the money is intended to be used partly for landlord incentives, which is the kind of high ticket thing, as well as kind of that loss mitigation fund that would need to be replenished over time. So it's probably, you know, that number is a little bit fungible depending on what we really want to do for landlord incentives. We just haven't had those conversations yet. Every time we're trying to start that particular one, some unnatural disaster sort of throws us off track. But yes, that's it's primarily for those purposes. I do think that we'll be able to fund the beginnings of that work with some grant funds. Long term, I think we'll also need to see additional public dollars if we're seeing results. So this is something that can be shared by multiple agencies as well.
Great, thank you. And where might we identify funding for the rapid rehousing and coordinated entry that we're missing right now?
That's a great question, to be honest. I think that's going to take some time to do some research, and I honestly haven't really started the research on funding for those 2 items yet, because I've been really focused on Navigation Center and then these sort of interim, what can we do right now to maintain beds in these emergencies. So I'm not totally sure that I can answer that confidently yet.
Okay, I recollect that HUD was funding some of that in the past. Is that accurate? Do you know?
I believe so, but if Steve Manella is available, I know he's on the call, he can speak to that better than I can.
Okay.
Yes, we currently have rapid rehousing that's funded through HUD funds. And then additionally, something that we have that Sarai mentioned was we have the emergency shelter grant, coronavirus funds, and a portion of those funds will be used for rapid rehousing as well. So part of what Sarai is showing is that we have a lot of short-term funding that isn't permanent funding for this item, and we'll need to come up with ways to fund it permanently.
Thanks, Steve. And then to answer your question, Sarai, I'm very eager to talk about where our navigation center is going to be located. But you mentioned some things around the related to the Highway 99 parcel that this council hasn't been updated on. So I would be more interested in having either getting that update before talking about River Avenue or talking about both pieces of land together and not necessarily just narrowing us in on making a decision about one piece of property.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Clark. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I first want to say, Soraya, well done. Good job. I think you've done an excellent job of fleshing out all the work that is brought forth in the TAC report and all the direction council has given about the direction we want to go and the planning that we want to see. I think you've done a fantastic job with that. I really appreciate the chance to speak with our colleagues across the way at the county as frequently as possible, especially on this issue. I think us working together is smart and good. I want to kind of summarize some of the math I just heard, and I'd like you to just see if I'm close in the 30,000 that I just saw here. We currently have beds sufficient to address something like 10% of the current need. We have a plan that we've asked you to orchestrate that we hope at the end of 5 years may get to 35 to 40% of the need. We're going to spend something in the range of $30 million to do that, and we don't know where 13 million of it is coming from at the moment. Am I close?
I'd say yes.
Okay. Again, I want to say that I appreciate very, very much that we're all together to talk about this, and I think it's right that we are, and that we should do so as frequently as we can afford to schedule the time to do it. It's a large-scale problem that needs all of our effort. I don't mean to throw cold water. I think you've done a great job orchestrating and implementing the plans that we've all made to this point. I just think that the situation has altered over time, and I don't think our plan is sufficient to the need. And I would encourage us to continue on with what we're doing at the moment, but to give thought to the fact that we may want to consider from a 30,000 foot level, looking at this anew and looking at it maybe not differently, but with additional effort. Because even over 4 or 5 years, I would suggest those numbers will go up. And whether we actually ever get to 30 or 40% of the actual demand and need is an open question. And I think it's an awful lot of money to put towards this effort in this way to accomplish that percentage of the need. So I'm hesitant, but I'm really happy that we're working on it, and I'm happy that we're working on it together. I just hope we'll reanalyze our plan. Thank you.
Is there a commissioner that would like to speak next? We do have this new format in Zoom, and you can raise your hand. I don't see any hands up yet. Oh, Commissioner Bernie.
This is Pete, and you can call on me when you have time.
All right, we'll work on that next round.
Soraya, have we changed the definition we're using? Are we now using all federal agency used definitions of homeless when we look at these numbers, or no?
That is not what we're doing yet. Right now, these numbers are still single adults. So I think that it would be very worthwhile to add other definitions. Yes, but still that's what we're working with.
So, so to Councilor Clark's point, those percentages are really only dealing with a finite group of definitions at this point in time.
Right.
Landlord incentives. What are the landlord incentives, and are you working with the home share program in that regard?
Okay, so the incentives that other communities have put together, I woofed because I'm really excited about home share. I'm
glad that's why you woofed, Soraya, but nonetheless, yes.
Yeah. Just so you know, the landlord incentives that other communities typically do is some kind of bonus for leasing a place to somebody with a voucher. So that is the primary way that that's conducted, as well as then having that kind of back, the ability to apply for rehab or mitigation funds if the property is damaged. That in this case, we did do a pilot here, and the top amount people could apply for was $2,000. And out of the $50,000 fund that was set aside for that, I believe only $2,000 of it was spent. So there's still $48,000 in that loss mitigation fund at this point at the county. So that's the typical way. And then with home share, that one is a little bit of a different story. I don't know how vouchers would work with a co-living situation. So I'd have to really talk to Homes for Good about whether that's possible or not. But there are also people who have available spaces for people to park an RV and plug into their electricity and water, for instance, as well as other, ADUs and things like that. So
I encourage you to research HomeShare a little more. It's not limited to Homes for Good, and it's an interesting program if we're going to develop a system and if the need is as great as it is. Just my recommendation. Are you familiar with a new type of tent that apparently is half the cost and more weather resistant and wind resistant than the current Conestoga tents?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Those have been developed by a community member who's done multiple expeditions to Mount Kilimanjaro and had tested this tent design in those conditions while backpacking. So they have to be lighter weight. And so yes, we have a prototype out right now, and I just got to see it the other day. So yeah, that is a really awesome innovation. And if they're able to produce more of them, it's also an opportunity to create jobs in our community to sew them. So that's a very exciting possibility. And if I might just circle back to HomeShare, if that's okay, it is launched in Lane County at this time, so people are able to sign up for it. It was something that we wanted to have available for fire evacuees in particular at that moment. And so we do have, I believe, 30 or 60 households signed up for that at this point to host. There are some public health concerns with it, so I will be careful about how much I enthuse about it. But I did want to let you know that in case you hadn't heard yet.
Well, I wasn't requesting the level of enthuse. I was simply saying that seems to be a potential program that can exponentially, if structured right and work with multiple sectors, address this issue that we're trying to address that is only growing and only a part of which we're talking about. I want to share that I've been told with this group, that I've been told by a couple of Springfield city councilors that Springfield is right now preparing to change the building code to allow travel trailers, motorhomes, tiny homes to park on all house, church, commercial, and industrial lots in Springfield and our urban growth boundary to help a little bit. So I just wanted to share that. And my last question is, you mentioned that 204, as we're developing and building this, that 240 beds have been secured. Can you identify whether all or part of those are due to adding your position and other positions to create a system, or were those in the works anyway, or a part of them?
Great question. If I had a context outside of myself, I'd probably be able to answer it better. But I think that it is highly likely that the work that I've been tasked with for winter strategies over the summer really has led us to this place where we're seeing more non-congregate shelter and really, again, some unprecedented moves, in particular, the approval of 5 new rest stops by the city of Eugene just last month. So I wasn't directly involved in that particular conversation, but the people on the TAC implementation team were engaged with us on that too.
Sir, I'm only supportive, but I'm going to re-ask the question. Of the 240 beds secured, were all of these the results of activities that would have occurred, or at this point in time, are we already seeing some fruits of your multi-agency work?
I can jump in on that, Sarai. I mean, I know that's a hard one for you to answer. I would say that we're seeing the fruits of Sarai's work. I mean, having somebody that is focused on this, that is bringing the energy, has just helped, I think, energize all of us towards wanting to move quicker and faster. And I know the Eugene City Council has expressed that, and we've been working really closely on that. So some things might have happened, but I don't know if they would have been as big or as quick.
Whose
Okay.
voice was that? Whose voice was that?
Sarah Maderi, sorry.
Thank you. I'm not going to ask the question a third time. I just want to point out that I'm 1,000% enthusiastic and supportive, but the question wasn't answered. And then finally, Sarai, you posed a question of how do we include partners? And I would suggest in writing and soliciting and seeking additional resources. To me, this is a very somber and painful subject and of tremendous gravity. So it would seem to me that if municipalities can offer some kind of incentive money for just a small amount for foundation grants, so as partners are applying for grants, they can literally say the city or the county, if you fund this, is going to put in, whatever, indirect or direct. I think there are ways to exploit and bring in capital to our community for this topic by engaging our partners and supporting them. And I know my time is up. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have Chris and Alan in the queue.
Yeah, thank you. A very impressive presentation. My first reaction is I'm really gratified at how much progress we have made. Sarai, you've done a tremendous, tremendous job. And Peter and the other folks at the city and the county have all worked together as a team, and I recognize that. And we've done a lot. And this conversation, I have to agree with the things that Mike was talking about because and also what Commissioner Berney is talking about to some degree, because as I mentioned Monday night, the key concept here is public support. This is not going to happen by itself. And we will need partners to do it. We will require private investment and we will require some other tools along the way, but we also have to be a part of that public support to help it get done. And while this has been a tremendous conversation with regard to what we can do and when we can do it, and I'm grateful that we're still adhering to the 5-year plan, part of what is happening and part of what is going to the state right now is when we do our regional housing needs analysis, it's not only identifying the affordable housing needs, but it's also interested in looking below that wall at our homelessness needs. And so the state could conceivably impose timelines to say, you need to demonstrate good faith effort through public support to be addressing not only the problem of affordable housing, but also the problem of homelessness. So this can't be a conversation that we can have just among ourselves. There is a timeline, not only that we've set, but there's a timeline that the state will also expect us to adhere to. And that's all the lead up to say, we're gonna have to put some serious money, whether it's in the form of cash or in the form of incentives or in the form of whatever it needs to be, to help partners to get it built. Because even the state recognizes the city or the county doesn't build housing. We provide the supports, the incentives, and the financial wherewithal to get that housing built. But if we don't put our part in, it doesn't happen. And so I'm just really emphasizing, I will not be here when you start having some of these really serious conversations. I'll be gone. But you really need to recognize there's going to be a pressure for us to deal with some very significant populations. And while we have huge growth in our situational population, we also have a very significant issue with our chronic population. And permanent supportive housing and some of the other options that the TAC report talks about can have a direct impact on that very expensive, very difficult chronic population. So we really have to consider strategies to step up to that group, and that takes money. And Portland passed a $300+ million bond measure to do this kind of work. We have to look at what our opportunities and options are. And so I can't stress how serious this is, and we need to get on it now.
Okay, Councilor Zelenka. Alan, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Great job, Sarai. That is, I think your enthusiasm is infectious, and hopefully it'll affect the entire process. So keep up that enthusiasm. I think you did a great job pulling this together. It's very informative. I like the donut graphs, circle graphs, really illuminate where we are short on a lot of things. You know, on the good side though is, you know, I've been working on this stuff since I was on the HSC like 30 years ago. And this is different. This feels different. We really actually have a plan, and it's really to get towards ending homelessness, chronic homelessness. And so it really does feel different. Although, you know, a lot of these things that we're talking about are really the symptoms of the bigger problems. And I've said this many times, but the bigger problems are really affordable housing, drug and substance abuse, and our lack of any programs around that, and mental health issues and our lack of programs around that. So once we solve all those three, the homelessness stuff goes away. So I think we're kind of approaching this a little bit from the dealing with the symptom instead of dealing with the real problem. But it's a good place to start nonetheless. I concur with what Mike and Chris said, that this shouldn't be a static plan. We need to be open to new ideas. You know, the new tents are pretty cool. The more sites, different ways of doing things. I mean, I think back, the hallmark of all of our programs so far has been innovation. I think back to where we were, you know, this all started with Opportunity Village Eugene, which was like 30 people. And now look where we are. And it's all been very innovative. We're national leaders on pulling this stuff off, and people are looking to us about how to do this kind of thing. So I think we keep that up, and I'm really enthused by this. So if I got what Mike said right, so our need is about 30 million, and we have 13 million. So we have a $1 billion gap over the 5-year period.
It's we have a gap of 13 million.
Oh, a gap of 13 million. Okay, that's better. You know, I picking off of what Chris said, these are actually pretty solvable problems. This one and climate change and reducing greenhouse gas and mitigation for that are the two things that are crying out in our community for more funding. And I think we need to be creative about how we look at that and expand our horizons about funding. We might get some more from new administration, but we need to be looking locally, including a bond measure to go out and maybe fund both climate change and homelessness. And after the county's done with their climate change look, maybe we can team up.
Okay, I'll move on to Commissioner Sorensen, and then Commissioner Farr will be in the queue after that.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the presentation, and I appreciate the detail on what the gap is over the 5-year period, which you said was $13 million. Is that an annual figure, or is that a total figure?
It's a total figure based on the current projections.
Okay. And do you have any recommendations in terms of how to bridge that gap? What ideas do you have for bridging that gap and getting that $13 million?
Well, I'd have to really point to Councilor Pryor and Councilor Zelenka's comments around bond concept, potentially. I also think that there are private funds that can be leveraged with public investment. So working really closely with some of our key foundations across the state would be also something really beneficial to our community. As we're looking at that, I think that the way that we would approach that is working with potentially multiple foundations on a really big county-wide investment on adding, you know, those first few rungs of the housing ladder. I definitely have heard some folks talk about how homelessness very largely is a housing issue, which is very true. So looking at some foundations that are interested in supporting those efforts, including potentially Meyer Memorial Trust, Oregon Community Foundation, some of those larger ones, maybe even Murdoch might have interest in something of this scale. So there are quite a few opportunities. I think there's also really specific opportunities for our rural communities. And so I think we would be wanting to look at those and how do we leverage those with all the work we're doing in the metro area as well.
What percentage of the homeless people live in the city of Eugene? And when you use the term $13 million, is that for all of the homeless in Lane County or just in the city of Eugene?
The city houses, I mean, basically every month it fluctuates a little bit, but it's usually 70 to 75% of people who are unhoused or unsheltered are living in Eugene. And the number is based on the TAC recommendations specifically. So it doesn't include much outside of that, if anything, at this point. So the budget can really fluctuate depending on what we choose to do, but these are the numbers based on the original TAC recommendations.
So the $13 million is just Eugene.
It is really for the whole county. Overall, I mean, the majority being in Eugene, yes.
70% is in Eugene, but you said the total was $13 million. Is that accurate?
Yes, the gap. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what I'm trying to get at is what is the Springfield, what is the Eugene, what is the rest of Lane County? Could you give me those numbers roughly? 70% Eugene, you said.
7% Eugene, about 10% in Springfield, about 5% each in Cottage Grove, Oak Ridge, and Florence, and then the balance is really kind of across the county. And this is the numbers from our by name list, but I will also let you all know that that number is based on any service provider who's using the Homelessness Management Information System, HMIS, and it doesn't count people who aren't interfacing with those organizations. So the number is likely much higher than what we're counting.
Okay, thank you so much. Keep up your good work. And I agree with Councilor Pryor that, you know, for those of us that are leaving office in January, this is a huge problem. It's getting worse and it's getting more expensive. And I really personally think we got to think about a bond, and the government should leverage the construction so that we really get on top of this. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. I have Councilor Semple and then Councilor Ye in the queue.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarai, for, oh my gosh, so much different work. I'm glad I don't have your job. But you're doing a great one. The 240 beds that we're gonna have, that's for this winter, and we need 260 to 760 in non-congregate shelter. What does that mean? What would we be using? And question number 2, these tents, which I want to see and I've heard are so awesome, where are we going to put them?
All great questions. So the numbers, the 260 to 760 additional beds we would need is just to meet that initial goal of 500 to 1,000. And that number is based on the usage that we typically see in a season.
My clock is still going here. I've lost like 12 seconds. Sorry.
Thank you. I support you reclaiming your time. So that number is based on how many people typically use Egan in a single season, which is, you know, around 1,500, little less than 1,500 people typically. So what we want to do is still have warming available for people who aren't going to be in shelter, but because of a severe lack of sites, lower volunteer numbers, you know, all kinds of COVID complications with congregate, especially bringing a group of people who were unassociated yesterday into a place to spend the night together and then leave the next day back out to the streets. It's just a really dangerous way to operate in a COVID-19 environment. So looking at these non-congregate spaces is basically like individual units, like a motel room or Conestoga huts or tiny homes or pallet shelters or these tents. Placement, as our winter strategy kind of implementation calls for, what we're really looking for is a clear partnership of and clear roles between different governmental agencies. So essentially we landed on the county supporting services, and contracting those services to serve different places, and the cities standing up as many kind of non-congregate places as possible. So that's one of the reasons why you were presented with so many rest stops last month, is to be able to kind of get those on the ground right now in this winter, though that will also be a longer term investment. So those beds aren't going away after the winter is over. There's at least a 12 to 18 month runway with those funds to support those rest stops.
So we're not really thinking we're going to shelter more than that 240 people this winter. That's in the future.
I'm sorry, into the future?
Well, the 260 to 760 beds we need, that we're not going to get those this winter.
I don't think I'm going to call it yet. I think we still have time. It might not all happen in November, but we still have a lot of work to do with other municipalities and some unincorporated places in the county. So it might not be all here in Eugene, but it will. We want to really aim toward that number still. I'd say 500 is the minimum that I will feel okay about with this winter, just because, again, the dangers of COVID-19 combined with the cold is a pretty bad recipe. And I'd like for us to make sure that people have a safe place to sleep at night.
Well, I'm really grateful to hear that. That's what I want too. I'll be really fascinated to hear where we're going to put all these tents and tiny homes and things. That's a really big stretch for me after all these years going, where, give me locations. And no, not here, not here, not here, not here. And now we're going to find a place for 500 people to lie down. I'm having a really hard disconnect. Can you help me out with that?
Yeah, I mean, I just would really like to focus on the fact that not all of those beds will be in Eugene. So it's, what we have in Eugene is these rest stops that you've approved so far. There might be another few options that the county can bring forward. We're still talking about what that looks like or where that's even possible, because a lot of county sites are under construction or will be very soon. So there's other placement outside of Eugene, Springfield, that we can get. We also don't have any beds in Springfield yet, officially. So, continuing to work those channels, and that is what I have been focused on a lot for the last month or two. And we really started getting these RFPs out just recently, to try to get at least some service providers on board so we can start doing the capacity work that we need to with them. So yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge is absolutely sites. And the second biggest challenge is system capacity with our service providers. But I think everybody agrees that this is a very prime time for us to look for ways for us to shelter people individually. And I also think that the community is much more open to this than they have been in the past. In most neighborhoods, neighborhood associations have started really saying, hey, we want to be a part of the solution, because illegal camping and, people just not having a place to go is really impacting a lot of neighborhoods right now. So they'd really rather see how can we help people get a stable place to sleep and also mitigate some of the challenges that we're seeing in our neighborhood.
I absolutely agree that this emergency has finally gotten big enough for people to say, yes, I have to be part of the solution. And I'm really gratified to see different neighborhoods really, really looking for things and finding things and then being frustrated when they can't open today. So we're going to need to be careful to keep that energy fluid and people not getting frustrated and stopping because there's so much to do and so few of us and not enough money. But there's a couple groups in my ward that are looking at particular places and feeling stymied. So where we have movement that's not, just government, let's really put some attention there. And just, because I am city of Eugene, out of those 500 beds in the county, how many are in Eugene?
It depends on where the hotel is located, probably, that we're looking at. So it might be possible that the 100-ish beds that we're trying to get that way might be in Eugene.
I just want people to not be saying to me, hey, where's the 500 beds? I want to be able to say, we're going to try to get 100, and when we have Egan gone, this is great. I'm not saying none of this is great. I want more. I want it now. So go do that.
Okay.
And the idea of a bond, I don't want any more bonds, but having been on the last revenue team, I'm really not sure what to do. But talking to people, they are saying, look, I'm ready to put money down. You know, I will put some money down. Here's $200 every year. Fix this. So let's take that opportunity. And thank you so very much.
Jennifer, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Sarai, for your presentation. It was really excellent as always. And I also want to echo how contagious your excitement is. It's not always a super positive topic, right? We can get discouraged and frustrated. So your positive energy, I think, is very helpful. So thank you for that. Emily actually asked the question that I was going to ask about the winter strategies. I feel like every winter we're like, hey, we're going to do better next year. And COVID has made that very difficult. So I understand and I appreciate what it sounds like is your dedication to doing as much as you can in this difficult environment. So I really appreciate what you're doing and the effort you're putting into it. Let's see, I tried to make some notes of some of your questions. One of the things you mentioned early on was about the alternative shelters and how we were planning to taper, but you were feeling like maybe we should revisit that. And I am 100% in agreement with that. I think, yeah, we're going to have to, like Mike said, we're going to have to make adjustments to our plan. It's not written in stone. And that's one of the areas where I think it is appropriate to make some changes. I actually expected that you'd have like, you know, due to COVID, here's my new plan, which isn't, but you're kind of doing it, it sounds like, as you go. So that's great. Your other question was about meeting. I think anytime there's a partnership, you need to have as good a communication as possible. Because if you're not, that's when problems start to arise. So you should feel comfortable letting folks know when you want to meet with us, when we need to meet, when there's decisions that need to be made. And I think when we do it all together like this, it's very helpful to be able to hear different people's ideas and the things that they're dealing with, the situation, the constraints that they have. So I am in favor of more communication as opposed to less communication. So I think that's it. Thank you so much, Sarai.
Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Buck. Mayor Vinis, thank you for your ongoing continued work with the Poverty and Homelessness Board and also with the Shelter Stakeholder Committee, which I currently chair, but soon that will be changing. Thank you. Chris and Claire, you're both absolutely correct. And if I have time in my 3 minutes, I'll tell you what you're correct about. In the meantime, I have a comment, 2 questions, then another comment. My first comment is that, you know, sitting around this table on this call, there are so many years of experience. So many of us have been around for such a long time. In fact, you probably all know that when Councillor Taylor was elected, I was already on the city council. When I became a city councillor, Councillor Zelenko was already the chair of the budget committee with the city of Eugene and on the Human Services Commission. And Steve Manella has been around longer than all of us combined. So there are so many years of experience, and it's morphed from hand-wringing to action. And we're seeing more action today. Sarai, you have a very hot and malleable iron, and you are the blacksmith. We're counting on your swings being accurate and effective. My questions, the first one, Sarai, you talk about 12 to 14 units in Cottage Grove that will become available. You and I believe, and I believe Commissioner Buck is going to be a part of a meeting this afternoon that we talk a little bit more about that and the evolution. Can you talk about that project? Because I believe it can be a pilot that will be attractive to other communities and neighborhoods in larger cities. Could you include discussion about the pallet housing that's going to go into that, Sarai?
Yeah, sure. So I don't have any super confirmation yet, but what we've been discussing is standing up basically a tiny house village, which it might become over time, but in order to get it going this winter, there is a group called Pallet Shelters that operates out of Everett, Washington. They've just placed several different shelters in Hood River as well as Medford. Those are great because they can be deployed immediately. Especially if they have access to electricity, they're really good because they have a heater in the unit. They come in 2 different sizes, 64 square feet and 100 square feet. And so I've been working with our building official at the county on looking at those and making sure that they're usable for this purpose, and have a quote for a pretty large order that they could deploy pretty much immediately. So it would be something that we could, if we have sites for these, that we could stand up they take like 30 minutes to put together. So we could get them done really quickly. So that is a possibility. I believe they've been in conversation with Square One Villages about that. My hope on this would be that it would be something like, yes, let's get this winter going with pallet shelters, and then longer term, if Square One Villages is involved, I think that, you know, replacing those with tiny homes over time would be great. And then pallet shelters can be stored or redeployed to another site. So that's the kind of hopeful quick-ish solution that we can get to, and we've been working on that procurement process for a couple weeks, and I think we're close.
And we'll hear a lot more about that as we move closer to it, and also the opportunities for other communities, Cottage Grove size and smaller, and neighborhoods to use a similar model is wonderful. The second is, Sarai, do you know about an ordinance or an order that's going to be passed, most likely at the city of Springfield on Monday, allowing RV parking in driveways in a far less restrictive fashion than the city of Eugene currently allows, that is designed initially for a response to the Mackenzie River fire refugees, but it's something that can be used through the winter and beyond for other purposes. Do you know anything about that, or are you just waiting to hear what happens over there? I can say more about it. Sarai.
Well, luckily, Commissioner Burney mentioned it earlier, so I do have that information. I have a call scheduled with Erin Fifield at the City of Springfield tomorrow. I know that she and a couple of the counselors over there had talked about the winter strategies. So we'll continue that conversation and see what the city is able to do. And I think this is a great step in the right direction. I will add that HomeShare also has a feature that homeowners can say, hey, I have a spot where you could park an RV, right? I think I mentioned that earlier, but we asked them to do that specifically for this purpose, both for the fire evacuees and also for people who might even have an RV that's underutilized, who's willing to be matched with somebody who's a good fit for them. So that's one of the other great things about HomeShare, is it actually does the matchmaking as well as background checks and all that other stuff. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful step forward for sure.
And I will be a fly on the wall Monday. This is a pretty exciting project. I'm looking forward to seeing it move forward. And Joe Burney, the city of Springfield is so proactive in the way they're approaching things. The last is a comment regarding JEO meetings like this. I don't believe they're the most effective. They're essential, but they're not the most effective way to get work done. For instance, the format that we use, the city council and mayor get about 80% more time at the mic, so to speak, than county commissioners. It's not particularly equitable, and smaller meetings of specific task forces do a far better job identifying issues that can be talked about in depth at meetings such as this. Chris and Claire, I'm gonna have to tell you later what you're right about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Farr. And I appreciate your frustration that there's not quite enough time ever for these conversations. I have 2 counselors waiting for a second round, but I just want to jump in here with a couple of thoughts. And so the first one is, when we're talking about needing 500 to 1,000, these are additional beds to what we are already doing. So that's not counting Highway 99. It's not counting the Mission. It's not counting what already exists. So I think when we talk about the level of need, it's not to say that it's 10%. That's actually not accurate, correct? We actually are meeting more of the need than it sounds like from your stats.
Yes. Yes, we are for winter for sure. And then I don't know if you all remember from July, I had presented the HBNL numbers with updated projections. So one thing we could do at a future meeting or individually at City Council and the Board of Commissioners is identify whether we want to adopt those recommendations over what we have now.
Right. The second piece is that we received a memo just at the end of September about super siting. We were given some super siting authority, and I believe there were about 8 applications, and those also have the potential to add additional beds. Can you mention what the status is of that?
That's a good question. I am not certain the update about whether those applications are what the process is for approval, and I don't know if you could speak to that, Brooke.
Hi there, Brooke Freed here. So for the city of Eugene properties, the city would only be responsible for reviewing those within the city limits, and our planning office is evaluating those applications. Given the number, they think, so a wave of them was going to be evaluated within the first 30 days. So that's sort of the first timeline. It kind of depends on the quality of the materials that were submitted and how long it would take to get through that. So we can certainly provide an update to the city council on the status of those. I can check in with Alyssa Hansen, who's managing that process, to see where we're at in that review. Because the application requirements were rather broad, it takes some time to drill down. And then there is a appeal timeline that exists as well. So I can provide either a memo or an update to you all after I have a chance to check in with Alyssa.
That would be helpful, because those are, again, additional beds that would be opening that we need to count in our total. And then just a third comment quickly, when we talk about a navigation center, in the original concept in the TAC report, the navigation center was embedded with the permanent homeless shelter, and it was a major system. We have heard from providers in the last couple of months about their desire to have more of a network of navigation centers. So I think I do support the idea that we need to come back and talk about that navigation center specifically. And I think those different models, because some of those other models, if we're talking about a network, it may be faster for us to stand that up, and it may be less expensive to stand that up. And especially given that the use of the River Avenue as a permanent shelter is going to be delayed for some unforeseeable amount of time, but we might be able to enhance our navigation services before then. So just wanting to suggest that as a follow-up. Okay, I will give Councillor Clark another second round and then turn it back to the commissioners.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought Alan was in that queue too. I don't mean to give up the opportunity there, but I thought anyway, I'll go ahead. When I say that I think we need to consider additional plans to deal with this, there are a couple of fronts. Number one, how do we get to a larger percentage of the homeless population in order to curb public camping as a major issue? And then number two, I think, as Alan has mentioned, as others have mentioned at council meetings, as we get into the winter this year and even the late winter and early spring, I think the housing conditions are ripe that we may see a decent wave of new homeless people in our community due to the effects of COVID, due to just the vast number of people who are either in forbearance with their mortgage or haven't paid their rent. I mean, we're in double-digit percentages of people here who are in that position and going to need to either come up with a big lump sum of money or going to be in trouble. So I think preventing folks from becoming homeless is going to be an even bigger goal as we hit into the late winter and early spring. So 3 points on those two issues. Number one, the city has $15 million sitting in the facility reserve. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. We should be using that on the navigation center that is sufficient in size to address the issue and has the capacity to deliver several hundred emergency shelter beds. I think it is the highest and best use of that money that we have sitting there, and working in coordination with the county to be able to program such a facility. Number two, I don't think we're ever going to get our hands around this issue on a larger percentage until such a time as we view it as more than the opportunity to serve those who would be served. But in some cases, as Alan was saying, with regard to substance abuse and mental health issues that pervade that population, we're going to need to work, I believe, to in some cases compel folks to be in sheltered realities rather than on the river. Thirdly, with regard to the issue of keeping people from becoming homeless, I've talked very little so far, but with Sarah and a couple others, about the idea of a bond that would allow people to borrow money locally to stay in housing, whether it be a mortgage or whether it be a rental situation, in order to stabilize what could become a larger amount of homeless people. And that plan is one where people would, over time, would pay back that amount of money. And I'd like to talk about that further when I have more time someday. Thank you.
Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you. Quick question first. Can we be sent the presentation? It was not in the packet that was sent out this morning by email.
Yes, I'll prep it for you all and send it as soon as it's done.
Thank you. So one thing you mentioned early on when we were talking about permanent supportive housing and the timeline, you mentioned when city funds were committed. I just have to correct that a little bit. Almost all the funding for permanent supportive housing and all the projects on your timeline are coming from Homes for Goods tax credit financing or Lane County and our property that was donated for the location. MLK Commons, county land, our capital funds, county and Homes for Good are doing the operational funding. Market Commons, county land, Homes for Good development. 13th and Tyler, county land, Homes for Good development. 11th and Charlton is completely Homes for Good. River Avenue is completely a county property now. And as you look into the future, things like Taney and all that are Homes for Good. So next time, be a little bit more careful about which source of funding you're crediting for some of these. And I particularly there was a city newsletter that came out a month or two ago that took credit for a lot of these permanent supportive housing projects like they were their projects. And it kind of, I'm just a little bit concerned that you know, the real player there is Homes for Good, is the biggest player in permanent supportive housing in this county. And they're not getting a lot of mention here. And I really hope that we can do that in the future, maybe even think about including Jacob in some of these meetings, because I think permanent supportive housing is actually where we should be concentrating, because that's the long-term change in people instead of a temporary enablement. I would like to also note, Alan hit on something, affordable housing. We have to have that in all of our policies. Everything we think about, whether it's urban reserves, floodplain codes, whatever we're doing, we have to think about, will this make housing more expensive, or will it make it less expensive and more available? And it's just a simple, basic law of economics, supply and demand. If we want folks not to become homeless, we've got to deal with our housing shortage in this area. And we now have 400 families that have been displaced by the fire, adding to that lack of demand. So affordable housing in all policies. Thank you.
Is it okay if I just quickly respond? On the financials, on the expanded version of that Excel sheet, I do actually have the finances or the contributions divided out by county and city for every fiscal year. So I would be happy to send that to you so you can get a better glimpse of what that looks like if you'd like.
Okay, I have two counselors, Alan and Claire, both for a second round. I just want to make sure that Commissioner Buck gets a chance. So just keep an eye on the clock a little bit so that she also gets a moment. All right, Alan, then Claire.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the county for teaming up with us on this. It's going to take a village to solve this issue, and it's incredibly important that we all play together. And with that in mind, Sarai, you mentioned 10% in Springfield, 5% in Cottage Grove, Oak Ridge, and Florence, approximately. So what's our outreach to those 4 communities, and what's their level of participation so far in all of this stuff? Or is it just Lane County and Eugene?
So Springfield, I've been working with since I started to see what we can partner with them on. In my past work, I really worked a lot with the city of Springfield. So I think that there's some great opportunity there. And there still is. I think it's, it's just a part of this is the mayor leaving and some things like that. So they've been a little bit in upheaval. But I do think that they will likely be a part of this in some way for the long term and hopefully for the winter as well. Cottage Grove.
Are they so far?
Sorry?
Are they so far other than talking about it?
I'm meeting with Aaron Fifield tomorrow, so I don't really have a definitive answer yet. But it sounds like it probably will happen in some way. So, and I think this new ordinance that they're looking at is a part of their response to some of this too. So I think Springfield is a great opportunity. I think Cottage Grove, I just was connected with them through Chair Buck a couple weeks ago. And so that has been great and moving pretty quickly. They came to the pallet shelter demo a week or two ago as well. So I think that was really positive, meeting with them again today. And then Florence, I've reached out to a couple of different times. And I haven't quite heard back yet, but I am going to continue to pursue that. I think that Florence has quite a few people who live out there who don't have a ton of resources. And so I think that we can do something with them this winter as well, and hopefully longer term. I mean, to me, I'm of the opinion that we need to engage every municipality in the whole entire county to work on this issue together. Or we're not really going to change much. So I think, we can't really look at only doing stuff in Eugene as the solution, because that's it's just not going to serve everybody who really needs it. So how do we expand this countywide and really start to reach out to some of our further out rural communities who typically have to come into town to get the services that they need. So that's really what I think is important.
Right. And a countywide bond would actually help do that, because it would get some funding directed to them, because I think those smaller communities, big part of it is funding, not necessarily a lack of willingness. I might be wrong on that, but one more point. When you do the stats, to the mayor's point earlier, which is, can you make sure that you have the existing home beds and the new beds and ultimately how many we have a gap for? That kind of way of talking about it is really helpful. And then I just wanted to tell councilors I was going to put together a work session poll on funding, probably with a dual homelessness climate change funding bond process. So look for that. Thanks. And Claire, do you have anything?
Okay, Claire, and then I really do want to give Commissioner Buckham a little time. So,
as a matter of fact, I do, Councilor Zelinka. No, I just wanted, Sarai reminded me that, she presented to us kind of an updated revamp of our TAC report goals. And then I think neither body has formally said, yes, let's change to that. And I'm just wanting to let the city manager know, I think that we should do that. And I hope that you will schedule a work session for us to make that a formal decision, to consider that and hopefully adopt those changes.
Prior to my speaking, I know that Commissioner Burney wants to share some information since we've been talking about Springfield and he's in the know. I'm going to give a minute to him before I speak.
Well, that's kind of you, Heather. Thank you. I want to agree with Commissioner Farr. I don't like this format either. And here we haven't even heard from our chair yet, and I did not mean to get in front of her. I want to also thank Commissioner Farr and Sarai for mentioning what's going on in Springfield. It seems a bit insane to me when we're talking about a whole system, to not recognize the contributions that the city of Springfield has made already. And I think this new ordinance is another example of sort of a get her done, common sense approach to contributing to a solution, just as legalizing and waiving SDCs for ADUs was the same type of thing. I would like to posit that two things. One, I really appreciated your quote, Sarai. My favorite quote is from someone I had the honor of living with, actually, Margaret Mead, who said, "Never doubt it's a few people that can change the world. In fact, that's the only way the world has ever changed." Two comments. One comment is, I think really we're talking about far more than shelter here. Shelter is where it begins, but we're talking about giving human beings, giving people with as much right to be here as us, a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, a sense of comfort and usefulness and belongingness and competence and being a part of our community. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. And I want to contribute a suggestion, and that is, 30 years ago, the Pew, we talked about foundations. The Pew, you mentioned no national foundations. The Pew Charitable Trusts invested heavily in the Springfield-Eugene Metro Partnership. I know because I was the executive director of Networking for Youth, which was the beneficiary of that, and which some of you recall. I just want to say there is a national organization of funders together to end homelessness. It's a network of funders supporting strategic, innovative, and effective solutions. I believe we have the wherewithal and the capacity here to be one of their major sites. Robert Woods Johnson, Pew Charitable Trust, a host of foundations. We also have a history of bringing groups and alliances together with groups that historically don't work together. This is a pervasive issue. The sooner we get that position, the better, I believe. And I really want to suggest we do that. And any discussion of a bond, please have it be a little more strategic. And let's talk about how we can use our willingness to perhaps structure a bond as an incentive to get some of those national foundation dollars here and start moving aggressively in that manner. So thank you for allowing me to speak, Chair.
Thank you for that. I think it's important that we do include conversations with Springfield and other of our smaller cities in this. So I'm pleased with the reach out to Cottage Grove, and hopefully we can continue to do that throughout our county, because this is really a county-wide conversation. And had COVID not hit and wildfires hit and all these other things come along, I would think that the progress that we're making was quite hopeful, and it is hopeful, except for now I feel like we're just trying to tread water with the rooms and beds that we've lost because of those things. So we're just trying to keep up at this moment with where we were respectively last year. And it begs the question for me, are we thinking big enough? We've got a lot of things rolling now, wonderful things that need to happen, systematic changes that must happen. But sometimes they're so small and incremental, we're not presenting to the public a reality of the huge issue that we need to solve. And I like the out-of-the-box thinking, the different kinds of various levels of housing and shelter that we've provided it as goals for ourselves. But I still just encourage us to think even bigger. And don't think that any idea that you bring is just going to be poo-pooed, because we need any idea and everything put on the table. And even if we think it's an outlandish goal, never be able to do it, there could be a portion of that thought or that idea that could actually be made possible. I feel like we're on the leading edge of tackling homelessness, comparatively speaking, to a lot of other places in our community and on the West Coast. And that's really something we should be proud of. But I don't want to leave us there. Like we have such a huge issue. We need to continue the conversation to bigger and bigger levels if we're going to make a real dent and not just keep treading water. So thank you for all the conversation today. I do believe we need to meet. Maybe we can talk about a different kind of format where it's a little easier to tackle the issues. But I do hope we continue the conversation and include our other cities.
Okay, thank you. I agree and apologize that I feel as if there are commissioners who have maybe more questions and need more time, and this did not allow it. So we will look at that as well. And with that, we are adjourned. City Council is adjourned.
And our Board of County Commissioners is adjourned as well. Thank you.
Thank you all.